fifth point is the emotional and behavioral problems. Fatherless homes can be associated with a higher likelihood of emotional and behavioral problems in children and in adolescents. These may include depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and aggression. And it's because they don't have an outlet. And then it's wild as I'm looking into this, we talked about this inside the Agogi, and then all the men shared. And the sixth point is future relationships and how they affect future relationships. Young men raised in fatherless homes may face challenges in forming healthy and secure relationships in adulthood. The presence of positive male role models can impact their understanding of healthy relationship dynamics. And what's wild to me about that is that was something that I struggle with, and it's something I struggle with I guess on some level I still do with you, because it's so
intimate.
It's so intimate, and it's not something that I'm used to. And, and it's not something that I really had with my first marriage, which was okay. And that marriage was okay, which obviously is not, because that didn't work. But
you were gone a lot. You were deployed. It was
and
like
6 years out of 12, I was gone. So, and which only probably furthered the whole thing anyway. But I looked at that and I was like, holy shit. I looked at your story, what you told me, and I'm looking at myself, and I'm looking at when we first met. I'm like, yeah, I struggled to be really intimate. I struggled to have that kind of connection, even though I want it. Like, I'm 41 years old, and like, this really probably started way back when.
Yeah, it's a detachment thing.
Right. When I was like Dimitri, going, I just want to hug, and hold you, and I want you to tell me how much you love me. I didn't have that from
a male.
Right. It's an interesting thing, and it seems so, I guess, not important at the bigger picture, or maybe even in the moment, right? Even in the moment, it's like a little thing, but it's like you're talking about decades of the future in that, wrapped up into one little moment.
Well, so like I remember my stepson. I raised 3 boys with my ex-husband, and their mom left when they were little, and she was, she's also dead, so I can talk about this. But, when they were little, she would see him every once in a while. And so, they would always get really excited to see her, because like they kind of had her on a pedestal because they hadn't seen her in so long. And so every time like we'd take them, to see her for a little bit, and maybe she'd have an hour to spend with them, we'd take them and drop them off to her for an hour or something. Yeah. And then the youngest would say, hey, I just want to stay here with you.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, no, you can't. You need to go. And then immediately he would like go from like wanting her affection and attention to slamming the door and saying, I hate her. It was like, it didn't take long. It was literally a matter of like from him being 4 to him being 5.
Yeah.
He wanted to reject her first. And then it was like he no longer felt sad about it. He hated her and he wanted her away.
Yeah.
And so it's like this little like shift, right? Like I'm sure there was a point in which you wanted that from your dad. You couldn't have it. There was like this longing for it. And then I remember you telling me like around 12 or whatever, you just freaking started hating everybody and you were angry.
Yeah. I remember I distinctly remember that age to where I was just like, I had this just rage. Absolute rage inside of me. It was just fire.
Right. And it's like,
I hated the world.
And it's like, that goes where all those emotions and all that like disconnect and attachment and all the things you desired that were just not met, not there, empty, then they switch.
Yeah.
And especially with testosterone and puberty, like what do you just lit a bomb on fire, dude. Like so it's like, and then you move on to like relationships and things like that. And you just have a little bit of detachment from connection and from intimacy. And honestly, the military was probably like the perfect place for you to go because
was it though? Was it?
Well, in that aspect of like,
it's ironic, especially in special operations. Like if you look at Josh and I have talked about this a lot. That demographic of people, man, we kind of all have a similar backstory.
And I'm sure that's what they expect.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
They're like, yeah, no, we'll take you, we'll house you, we'll feed you.
Let me
We'll
get a bunch
we'll pay
of
off your school debt.
let me get a bunch of detached, aggressive, smart, capable men
Maybe who don't have a lot of money or financial backing or whatever, somebody to
that are extremely
send
capable.
them to college, right?
Yeah.
And
Hey,
whether or not
they didn't send us to college. They
No, I
sent
was
us
saying
they sent us to war.
they said you didn't have somebody to pay for your
Oh
college, so
yeah.
they sent you guys to
Yeah.
work. Yeah, I'm sure that's kind of how that's always been. But you know, I think the biggest thing though that it's helped me to see, like just with you and him, right? Because you guys have this really, I think you do have like a really awesome special relationship. And people,
That's my dude.
I know, and he's from the get-go, you know, because and not everybody knows this, but like you were so actively involved with him as an infant.
Yeah.
Infancy was so hard for me. I was so freaking terrified of that
But
baby
you got
exploding. I
yeah.
was like,
But I was a veteran dad.
yes.
You know what I mean?
And
So I
I'd been
understood.
around lots of babies, but you know, all the hormones and stuff, you have no idea how you're going to feel about something happening to your baby and that you're
Yeah.
responsible for it. So I just was like panicking all the time for like 8 months. And you were really, really there to like help with night feedings and all of the little stuff.
Oh,
and
I
he
could
was-
calm him down really easy.
So he's super
Yeah.
connected to you. And I think that is so cool. To me, that's really ultimately what I wanted. I didn't want to have this, like, I've got a baby and you're gone all the time. You know what I mean? I wanted us to be a unit. And so I think it is really awesome and that you guys are so, so close. But what I've seen, you know, too, is like people tell us all the time, you know, your kid is just like so advanced. And I mean, who knows? Probably everybody thinks that about their own kid. I don't know. But like, we have a almost 3-year-old. He's not even 3 years old. He's completely potty trained himself when he was 2.5. He completely learned how to swim when he was like 9 months old. He can swim from one end of our pool to the other. He's like very, very strong, full sentences, full communication, understands emotional concepts, like well-rounded 2-year-old.
It's
And
kind of weird.
it's kind of weird.
It's kind of weird.
But I personally feel like it can very much be attributed to the fact that you have spent so much time invested in him personally. I watch what happens with a lot of women. A lot of women, and this is going to sound so harsh, but I feel like I have to say it just because I'm
No,
not
it's
trying to
kinda-
I'm not trying to call people out. I'm just trying to like come on now. Like let's talk about this.
Say what you got to say.
A lot of women don't know what else to do with their lives, so they have kids, right? So they stop personal development because they feel like they don't know what to do and they feel like, okay, my purpose is a kid, right? So then they have a kid and then they like, that is not their purpose as much as it is their personality all of a sudden. So then you have a bunch of kids and you create this like little cycle within yourself where it's like you and your kids just kind of sit around and do nothing together and like you're feeding them shit and you're eating shit and they're, you know, it's not healthy situation and a lot of times.
And then they're stressed and resenting their kids.
And they resent their husbands for leaving them
Yeah.
with their kids, but then they're
right.
that's what they wanted. And then so it's like a cycle, right? It's a bad habit. And I'm not saying this is all women. I know a lot of incredible women. I have a lot of close friends that are moms that are like baller. But there's a lot of women that do this. And then what I also see is like when their husband does want to do things with their kid and connect with them and roughhouse with them a little bit or even just discipline them. The women, because they've created this like kind of like twisted little society at home life with their kid, won't let the man do that. They won't let their husbands discipline their kids. They won't let, and especially if, you know, it's like a military situation and they're gone sometimes.
Yeah.
So like,
it's a difficult one.
yeah. So like they're taking away, they're babying their children.
And they're taking, and then
And
they're basically demasculating.
Demasculating or emasculating their husbands
Yeah.
by like not letting them be fathers. And then bashing their husbands for not doing enough. And it's like, then you now have this kid that just is like your little mini that like you give whatever they want to shut them up. They have no discipline. They have no values and they don't do hard things.
Yeah.
Right. Which is literally like can of chaos.